So why should we bother with the Bible? Well, the answer to that really comes if we ask a slightly different question. And the slightly different question is, how can we know anything about God at all? If God is an infinite person and we are not, we are finite people, can our finite brains comprehend an infinite God? How do we know anything about a being who is frankly beyond our understanding? Our scientific method has been to look down further into the things that we can dissect and look at in that way, but we can't do the same with God. So how do we know anything about God? The answer to that question has usually been given that there are two ways in which we can know something about God. There's a general way in which we can know things generally about God. We can look at all of the world around us and we can draw certain conclusions from the way in which the world is patterned, from the way in which the world was created. The complexity within it tells us something about God. This is general revelation, as it is known. But if we want to get specific, if we want to know something particularly about God, we have to rely on that knowledge coming from God to us. This is what the church has usually called special revelation. General revelation is generally around us in creation. Special revelation comes to us specifically from God. And that special revelation is recorded for us in the Bible. It is something which begins at Genesis and works its way through Revelation. The Bible, if you like, is a record of God's special revelation given through various authors, through various prophets, seen in various incidents. And that means that we want to say something else about the Bible. If it is a communication from God, and if God is the perfect God we say that He is, then we would expect that revelation to be perfect as well, which is why we like to talk about the inspiration of the Scriptures. If God is a trustworthy God, we trust that He communicates to us in a trustworthy manner. That's why we can say that the Bible has authority, because its clarity is a reflection of the authority of God. If God cannot communicate to us in a trustworthy way, well, how can we trust anything? So we want to say that the Bible is this revelation from God. We want to say that it's been inspired by God. And we want to say that the contents of it therefore have a plot and a theme that run through. Yes, we have so many different authors of so many different books in the Bible, but we also have this guiding hand of the revelation of God through it as well, which means that it does develop. We'll come back to this at another stage, but it is to say that there is a unified, coherent plot, for want of a better word, within the Bible, which means, therefore, that we can use some parts of the Bible to help us understand other parts of the Bible. If we find that a bit is obscure, then we can use the light from other parts of the Bible to help us understand it. Because, as you can see, there must be an understanding that the Bible doesn't contradict itself. If we have a contradictory God, well, how can we know anything? But the Bible rather is this record that God has given us. So it's clear, it's trustworthy. We can use it to interpret itself. And also, it has this unity of which I have spoken. There's something else which the Church has always said about the Bible, which is why it's important, is because it contains within its pages all that we need to know in order that we may be restored to God. There is a sufficiency to it. We don't need to add in things from other sources, but there is a sufficiency to the Scripture itself. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't benefit from the writings of other authors who've commented on Scripture. It doesn't mean that the creeds and the confessions of the Church don't have their value. But it does mean that everything we need to know is contained within the Bible. And as the Church has recognized these books to be authoritative, as the Church has recognized the books that have within them that inspired nature, well then we find that we have then the list of the 66 books which are contained within our canon of Scripture. Those 66 books which are bound together in the Bible have that character of inspiration, of unity, of, well, a revelation from God. So why do we bother with the Bible at all? The answer to that is simply because it's the way in which God communicates to us.